All right, the hour of 6:30 has arrived. I'd like to bring this study session of Urbana School District 116 to order. Roll call, please, Ann.
Sorry. Member Ogolski?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
Member Hasanadka?
Here.
Member Hall is here. Vice President Exum?
Here.
And President Pulaski?
Here. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications needed for tonight's agenda?
No.
No, hearing none. We'd like to start off with citizen statements. So if you'd like to make a statement before the board, please fill out the goldenrod forms that are located in the back of the room and hand them to Recording Secretary Lori Johnson. We have, I think, 5 so far. First up is Kathleen Carter.
Kathleen, press the little, so it turns green. Oh, there we go. Hi, my name is Kathleen Carter, and I have been a teacher in the Urbana Spanish Dual Language Program for the past 7 years. During that time, I've had the privilege to work at both Dr. Williams and Leal in different capacities, which has provided me with the opportunity to see the successes and challenges that our program faces in both schools with the current strand model. I am currently teaching 3rd grade dual language at Dr. Williams, and am deeply committed to the students and families in our program, and want to improve our program so as to provide the best possible learning for our students. I firmly believe that following the Spanish Dual Language Committee's recommendation to shift to a one-school model at elementary is the best way to do this. Shifting to a one-school model would allow us to foster a school climate where bilingualism is celebrated and the status of Spanish is elevated. Currently, we are operating within monolingual spaces where English is the norm outside of our classroom walls. Frequently, I have students who express to me that they do not feel comfortable speaking Spanish in the halls or at recess, or that they do not feel that they can ask an adult for the help that they need since they do not speak Spanish. If the program were all in one building, students would be empowered to use their entire linguistic repertoire throughout the school and in a variety of different contexts, which would support them as they grow as bilinguals, as well as in their growth academically. This would also serve to create a space where all families feel welcomed and able to communicate with the staff. Additionally, combining the program would allow for several shifts, which would lead to improved learning outcomes for our students, especially the emergent bilingual students who our program is designed to serve. Dual language teachers would be able to collaborate with one another. This is the first year that we've had the option for a weekly collaboration via Zoom across the 2 buildings, but not all grade levels have access to this. Currently, we have very limited opportunities to work with one another, which has a negative impact on our students. Teaching in a dual language classroom requires a focus on not only learning targets for content areas such as math and science, but also a focus on the language objectives for our students. We are constantly teaching students at a wide variety of levels in both languages who need different levels of support. There is also less access to high-quality, authentic materials in Spanish, which often means that we as teachers are creating most of our resources. Having the ability to collaborate within the program would allow us to have more dual language expertise in this process and to be able to better achieve more balance, improve teacher retention, and teach higher quality lessons in order to better meet the needs of all of our students. Our working conditions are our students' learning conditions, and we cannot afford to keep losing our dual language teachers to other districts. Student learning outcomes would also be improved by the consolidation of staff and resources. Our support staff have high caseloads, and they do amazing things for our students, but there are simply too many who need that extra layer of support. Combining would allow for more students to have access to the appropriate support services and would help to address class size inequities both within the program and within Dr. Williams and Leal. Having all of our Spanish dual language classes in one building would allow us to balance out larger class sizes, thus enabling us to more effectively group students for differentiation and to be able to spend more time with each one. Last year at Dr. Williams, we started off with 2 dual language classroom teacher vacancies, and while we had some amazing subs who stepped up, this was not ideal. If we'd all been in one school, we could have adjusted class sizes or grade levels to ensure that each group of students had a bilingual teacher with DL expertise. Similarly this year, I have a class of 23 3rd graders, and the 2 classes at Leal are sitting at 15 and 16. These numbers make it challenging to meet the wide range of needs in my room. If we were all in one school, these classes could be balanced out in terms of academics, behaviors, and social emotional needs. We would also have the ability to strategically group students across classes to better meet their needs, which would have a positive impact on student learning outcomes. Much of the feedback that's being shared around this potential change is against it, and I know that many have expressed frustration about how this could impact the neighborhood school model and their ability to walk to and from school. I would like to remind everyone that there are many students in this district who have never had that privilege, many of whom are the very students the dual language program is designed to serve. I urge you, the board, to carefully consider all aspects of the decision and remember who the program is designed to serve, our emergent bilingual students and families. Thank you.
Yep. Next up is James Loomis.
Thanks for making time. Wonderful, thank you. Thanks again for making time for the public to address the school board. I really appreciate it. My wife and I were here last month because we wanted to voice concerns about the bilingual committee's proposal. And I regret to inform you these concerns have not been resolved. There are two main points I want to address: professionalism and bias. There was a committee meeting last night. All the participants were specifically told in front of school administrators that they shouldn't attend this board meeting tonight, that wouldn't be appropriate to voice concerns at this time. And Urbana Public School staff also told the attendees that they were disgusting for not supporting the committee's proposal. They implied the proposal was the only solution, and not supporting it was the same thing as not supporting the bilingual program's teachers. This is a false dichotomy. There are many possible solutions to support the bilingual program's teachers. It isn't disgusting to point at flaws in the current plan. Finally, at the previous meeting, one of the board members stated the welfare of the children who weren't in their program was not their concern. Last night they denied saying this, but I'm never going to forget those words. The bilingual committee has been unprofessional. In terms of bias, I mean, it kind of can be seen in how the committee was formed, the surveys they've done, and how they've responded to the community's questions. The committee's proposal will affect the entire communities of 2 schools, but it only includes members of the bilingual program. This isn't inclusive. When they surveyed families and faculty, they only surveyed members of the bilingual programs. The survey results didn't go, I think, as they planned, because 75% of the families in the bilingual program were against the committee's current proposal. There's a supermajority against it. 47% of bilingual teachers, only 47% of the bilingual teachers were in favor of the proposal, and only 43% of the committee itself supported the proposal. They didn't even have a majority. So in spite of this, and having no clear majority, the committee will still be appearing in front of this board on the 18th to advocate for dismantling 2 neighborhood communities and moving over 200 students. Their main justification for this, that they've given in PowerPoint and in writing, is that current conditions for the bilingual program might get worse in the future. When parents question the committee, it brings up issues about school size, professional development, planning, and curriculum. If school size is an issue, we can address the board about creating new buildings, increasing taxes to do that. In terms of professional development, I'm a special education teacher. If the bilingual programs need specialized development, that doesn't require moving 200 students. You can simply set separate PD aside that is more appropriate for their concerns, as they plan to do if they even pass this proposal. In terms of planning, as mentioned, I'm sure most of the people in this room have had to use Zoom over the course of the pandemic. It's become fairly standard. If there are issues implementing that, then I'm certain that the district's IT department can help handle that. Webcams are not that expensive. And in terms of curriculum, once again, you can look into trying to find more appropriate curriculum for the bilingual program. This doesn't require destroying these communities. When parents ask about the appropriateness of segregating Spanish-speaking students into a single school, the response is that Spanish speakers aren't a monolith. You know, there's still diversity, come from many areas. That's fair, but it's also true of every ethnicity. European, Chinese, that's not a point. They talk about how DPW will become more diverse because 80% of the school is comprised of students of color. And that's true if you treat them like a monolith, because it's about 40% black and 40% Spanish-speaking students. It's fairly hypocritical to make one point and then the other that way. There are other issues that have come up in terms of people asking, you know, why now? What's the immediacy? Why can't we build a school in the future? They bring up statements about, you know, the planning, how they started this in December. I student taught at Leal. I know that, you know, expanding the bilingual program to a whole school model has been discussed for at least 10 years. It's nothing new. In finishing, I would ask the board to follow its values that Urbana is better together.
Thank you, Mr. Loomis. Next up is Molly Hedke. Thank you.
Do I have to push a button?
Nope,
It's
you're ready to go.
Okay. Well, you guys are a little bit more intimidating than my fourth graders. So if I had my little wand, I'd just wave a little magic spell over you. Those guys really go for that. I'm thinking that you guys will not be going for that. But anyway, my name is Molly Hedke, and I have been a teacher for 26 years. And this is my 20th year at Leal. I began, and I'm more nervous than fourth graders. Woo. I began the same year the district transferred the students from King to the bilingual pull-out program. And I had been out of teaching for 7 years. I had no training, and I was put in a classroom of 27 kids where 10 were native Spanish speakers. It was a journey. We had lots of training and professors offering classes, and I managed to get my ESL certification along with my master's. I was part of the training 10 years ago when we moved from the TBE program to the dual language program. I mentored and befriended several dual language teachers through the years who were new to Leal and new to teaching. I saw their frustration with the large class size, the lack of materials, exasperation when there was no one to collaborate with in their dual language grade. I saw teachers leave because of the same reasons, and I saw the lack of community in our building. A year ago in August, I was asked to teach ESL in the dual language program. After being on the outside for so many years, it has been interesting to be on this side. I see the differences. I understand the frustration of not having all the curriculum you need, not being able to collaborate. There's no other teacher doing the ESL model like I am. The students are wonderful. They want to learn. They deserve the best the district has to offer. I've been serving on the DL committee for my students because for the last 10 months because of my belief that it's time for the DL program to be housed in one school. It's a big change, and it affects a lot of people. Urbana needs to be progressive, and sometimes we have to do hard things, and we have to make hard decisions. I tell my students all the time that they can do hard things. So school board, you can make hard decisions as well. Our students will benefit in the end from the DL program being housed in one building, and our motto behind you guys is often, we're better together. And just as a reminder, the mission of the Urbana School District is a multicultural community committed to educational excellence. It is to ensure that all learners acquire knowledge, develop skills, and build character to achieve personal greatness and help create a better global society by providing innovative, comprehensive programs, respecting individual learning styles and cultural differences, and fostering caring and nurturing relationships while engaging each student, every family, and the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Wendy Wirtz.
Yes, and Molly is right. This is so much more nerve-wracking than our kids. I don't know why. You're lovely people. Okay. I'm here tonight to speak both as a parent and as a teacher in the DL program. What is difficult is that what I feel like is best for my child is different from what I feel is best for the DL program. So that's what I want to talk about first. To be honest, I don't want change. I love where I work, especially the fact that we have trees for shade on our playground, and it is conveniently located, which benefits my family. I've built relationships with my monolingual colleagues, which lifts me through hard days. But as a teacher in the DL program, now at Leal for 8 years, and I had been at a TBE before that in Rantoul, I'm continuously puzzled at the challenge our native Spanish speaker students face in their academics. Even though I present the same content in their native language, it is normal for my English-speaking students learning Spanish to do better on the same material. The reality is, very few of us in this room understand what it is like to be a minority speaker in a majority culture. The United States is not Mexico. We are not just doing Spanish instruction. We are educating students who are feeling already in our political climate and with their language that they do not belong here. Put them in a school where half of the people, half of the teachers, half of the staff do not understand them. How are we supposed to make them feel like their language and their culture matters if we keep insisting that it's okay? But I also want to speak, and Kathleen so well addressed all those issues of collaboration, curriculum, et cetera. So I'm not going to read that for me. But the efficiency that one building would provide would also provide high-quality teachers. If you remember when all the standards movement came along, it was all about having high-quality teachers. Well, when we can't even find teachers to fill the spots, we are not getting teachers that are the highest possible quality. Wonderful people. That's not the issue. Speak Spanish beautifully, but they don't have an education in education. And that hurts our program. If we could be more efficient, which was what would happen in one building, not only would we have less of that issue, but we would also have stronger ability to mentor and support those teachers in that environment. I also speak on behalf of the monolingual teachers. For 8 years, and I don't quite understand the vote. I'm just wondering if those numbers, I'm not sure that they're right, because I haven't talked to a single teacher in my building, except for maybe one, of either monolingual or dual language who doesn't think that one building is the best idea. Monolingual teachers are frustrated. They are frustrated that every time a new student comes, they get put in their class, regardless how many IEPs they already have, regardless how many bodies are in that class, because there are no options. The looking that I did on research, there's no research on what's best, a strand within a strand, or a one building. So we can't look to that research to help us. But what we can know is that we have frustrated teachers on all sides. We have kids that do not feel their culture is validated, who feel fearful, and who are scoring low academically. We need to make a change for them. There are even teachers who don't feel comfortable in our building because they don't speak Spanish. They walk into the lounge and someone is speaking Spanish, they leave because they are uncomfortable themselves. That tension is real and it is felt by everyone. So as beautiful and wonderful as the school is, these tensions exist. And it's very hard to work alongside your peers when you're feeling like they're getting something you're not, or you're getting some, this is the group that's getting dinged this year. This is the group that's getting dinged this year, depending on the balance of the students. The hard part, as a mom of a special needs child, making such a change, is going to be significantly problematic. Change for students who have supports in place, meaning their special ed teachers. And my son is supported by monolingual aides and teachers who are phenomenal. Means that we would likely have to take our son out of the program because we cannot afford for that change for him. But that's one child. I can make the decision that's best for my family and for my child. Your job is to make the decision for what is best for a significant group of underserved students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Lena Sacco.
Good evening. I know almost everybody, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lena Sacco, and I teach in the dual language program at Leal. I kind of teach the gamut. I bounce around for wherever the need is, wherever we have extra classes. I tend to be the person that kind of moves around and teaches the grade level that needs me. I lost my place. Lord have mercy. I'm one of the oldest teachers in our dual language program. Oldest. I've been a dual language teacher in Urbana for 12 years. I was here through the transition from the bilingual program into the dual language program. I also have a number of years in Champaign where I taught in the bilingual program before they changed to dual language. And I also did a year in Champaign as ESL. I've also taught in Chicago Public Schools when I was student teaching, but it was a little more than student teaching. Dual language program. So I have a number of years of experience under my belt. Now, I referenced that many of you may or may not know me, but my colleagues have affectionately referred to me as passionate. And they're very tactful when they say that I'm passionate. But really what it boils down to is that I'm an advocate, and I speak up when the conversation is difficult. When there are questions that need to be asked that are difficult, when there are concerns that are being ignored. I'm an advocate for my students. I'm an advocate for all students in our building, but especially the students in our dual language program. I'm an advocate for bilingualism. I'm an advocate for other teachers, both in our dual language program, but as well as outside of our dual language program. I'm an advocate for families, and I'm an advocate for our program. I implore the board to listen to the professionals that have come to the table of this conversation. I ask that you listen to those of us who have been in this field, who know a thing or two about bilingual and dual language education, and those of us who feel in our core that this is the right decision, that it is the correct decision to move into one school. I have a number of reasons that my colleagues have already touched on. But the big one that I think I would like to tell you is, it really boils down to the resources for me. And the resources that we have at our fingertips are already minimal. We struggle every day to try to create the best lessons and to create the best environment for our students. And it's even harder when we step outside of our door and that culture kind of disappears or dissipates because it's not continued outside of our doors. It's very difficult when all of our resources have to be translated. And sometimes those translations are terrible. And so we have these things on our walls that don't even make sense because they had to be translated, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. If we were in one building, I'm not saying that those issues would go away completely, but at least we would have more heads at the table to try to problem solve when these issues come up. I also want to implore you to remember that the purpose of a dual language program is to help and to serve, by law, a marginalized group of students. And I feel like a lot of the concerns of people who are not, in the thick of the dual language program, who are not a part of this, they really will struggle to understand what that feels like to be a person who can't go out into the community and ask any person on the street, where's this bus stop? These are the people that we need to support and uplift and give and provide the best education that we possibly can, to provide all of the possible resources that we have. And it would benefit so many people in our program, the students, the parents, the teachers, all of us, if we could be in one location where everybody knows that they're welcome there, where their culture is celebrated, where their language is celebrated. I ask that you don't lose sight of the population that we are mandated to serve, that we are here for. These are the kids, these are the families that this program is for them. Please don't lose track of that. Keep them at the forefront of your mind. There are going to be many people that are going to give you reasons why you shouldn't support this, why you should keep it in 2 buildings. But I also want you to remember, or try, I want you to try not to let history repeat itself. Don't make this decision that was made 11 years ago when we opened up the second strand at Dr. Williams. I really hope that we can move forward with the best decision for the students who need this program the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the forms we received so far. If anyone else would like to make a statement before the board right now, there are forms in the back of the room that can be filled out. Does anybody else wish to make a statement? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. There is no call for an executive session after tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Student ambassador reports. Parker, Michael, do you guys have anything to report tonight?
Hi, everybody. It's good to be back. All right. Hope you miss me. Okay, so I've been talking to many students over the past couple of weeks about possible concerns that we are facing on a daily basis in the high school. One of the biggest concerns has been how packed it is when it's time to leave lunch. So for the students that are sophomores and above that can leave school for lunch, have not been really able to get enough time, because as soon as they get to the weapon detection system, it's a long line, and that adds, because they have to be back in class, so many of them are late coming back to class. One student brought up the idea of the addition of a microwave. They said that in the past we've had one, but it was taken away, and many students leave simply to warm up their food. But they have to travel all that way just to do something that's so simple when it could be utilized in the lunchroom. Other than that, I have been planning many school tours within the Urbana School District for my Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center students. So I wanted to shout out Dr. Jackson, Ms. Turner, and Ms. Jackson, Dr. Ivy Tatum, and everyone else that has been willing to give my students a tour of this great school district. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Before we move on to administrative reports, I'd like to recognize Lucas Herzog, who's operating our camera tonight, so thank you very much. Our first study topic tonight is an overview of the Visiting International Teacher Program, the Spanish Ministry of Education, by Dr. Wiemel.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. I say us because behind me we have 4 teachers with us this evening that we're going to highlight individually, but also collectively as a program as it relates to the Visiting International VIT, is the acronym VIT program, specifically with the Spanish Ministry of Education in Spain. And so, let me make sure this is all working. Oh, do you do that? Or do I do it? Okay. So first off, I just wanted to introduce the folks behind me and introduce who they are and the level that they're teaching at in Urbana. So first off, Alba Fernandez is early childhood bilingual teacher, so teaches at our Urbana Early Childhood Center. At Urbana Middle School, Antonio Rodriguez Mateos, who is an 8th grade dual language science teacher. And at Urbana High School, we have 2 teachers, Cristina Montañola Hernandez, Spanish language arts at Urbana High School, and Maria Serrano San Martin is dual language and general education chemistry physics teacher at Urbana High School. So welcome to our 4 fabulous teachers from Spain. So I'm going to give the opportunity at the end for any Q&A or conversations. I told them they didn't have to formally present, but I did tell them sometimes our board asks questions, so to be prepared for some questions. As we go through, the next few slides are just a quick overview. Where do I point this at? Where am I supposed to point it? Okay. So I borrowed slides from our bilingual directors meeting, the state bilingual directors meeting every September. We just had about 2 weeks ago. This is the old presentation. We need the updated presentation. that I borrowed slides from there that just provides the overview of the program. So let me grab, oh no, I have it right here. So while we're getting that pulled up, just a reminder of the history of working with the Visiting International Teachers Program. We started in 2012-13, where we had 3 elementary dual language teachers. That was the first year, if you remember, of starting dual language immersion in Urbana at Leal and Dr. Williams Prairie at that time. And we had 3 teachers that we recruited from Spain through this program. It's an approved program through the Illinois State Board of Education. And ISB sponsors the whole process, sponsors the visa process, takes care of all that legal paperwork side of things as it relates to working with the Spanish Ministry of Education. And then from 2013-14 to 2016-17, there we go. We had a total of 6 elementary dual language teachers across the 2 schools at the elementary level and finished out their years of experience between 1 to 3 years. At that time, teachers could come for up to 3 years on the J1 visa through this exchange. And we had teachers that taught just for 1 year and had teachers who taught for all 3 years with us. We had one teacher who was really close to considering staying long-term and switching to the HB1 or H1B visa process, but we did not go that far at that point with that teacher. We did pause the program for a few years in terms of that recruitment process and then started it back again this year with our teachers that are here now. So we restarted this program for the 22-23 school year and beyond. So our next slide. There we go. Okay. So this, as you can see, has the seal of the Illinois State Board of Education. And so I'm not going to go through every slide. You have that just for your own information. But I'll just highlight a couple key points in how the program originated. It's a cultural exchange through the Department of State that provides, this is language from ISB and the federal government. So foreigners, the opportunity to actively learn about American culture and exchange visitors through the J1 visa to work as a part of the program. So the idea is definitely an exchange. They could maybe speak to the importance on Spain's side of having teachers come to the States or to Canada and teach and then return back to their educational system to enrich their educational opportunities in bilingual education in Spain. This is really small to see, but these are just the qualifications to be eligible to be a visiting international teacher. So as it relates to meeting the qualifications of being early childhood, primary, secondary teacher, the qualifications to be a teacher in Spain, as well as the qualifications to be a teacher in the U.S. and in each individual state, and then the other things that are listed there. And additionally, the sufficient proficiency in the English language. And many of the folks behind me, and if you're familiar with Spain at all, it's a very multilingual country as well beyond just Spanish. And so we have folks who are multilingual, not just English and Spanish, but maybe Catalan or other languages as well. Benefits of participating, it's definitely an exchange and sharpens their experiences and their preparation, and we benefit greatly as well. So our students and our staff are able to collaborate with teachers from other countries, and in this particular case, Spain, and it enriches the educational opportunities for our children that are in the dual language program. My own personal children who have been in the program have had teachers from Spain, both currently and before when we were collaborating with this program, and it's been a wonderful experience in many ways, in many different ways. A few different facts. The State Board of Education originally started with just Spain, and now they've expanded to Morocco, Mexico, and I believe they're getting ready to start in 2023 with the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so it's expanding, which is exciting, and we hope to participate in program with multiple countries as we move forward. Mexico, because it's brand new, I think they only had 7 or 8 teachers that chose Illinois. So all the districts in Illinois that were recruiting had to choose from 7 teachers, and so we did not have any teachers from Mexico through that program at this time. But this also, as I said, with Morocco, I believe there's one other country in addition to the Congo that is possibly adding or joining this program as well. This is just the process of ISB and what they provide and what they do in terms of different documents, the CVIS system, the DS 2019, all of the immigration paperwork and all of those ISB sponsors. In Illinois, just for your own information, 94 teachers were placed in Illinois total for this fall, 89 teachers from Spain and 5 from Mexico. I said 7, it was actually 5. And then 24 school districts and 1 charter school are participating this year. These are those school districts. So Urbana is represented there. Champaign also, I believe they're on there. They started this year for the first time as well. and other districts, of course, around the state in our area. Rantoul also, yep, being close. So this is just a reminder of the international partners. Issues related to immigration, J-1 visa, valid for 3 years with the ability to extend. And so our teachers, sometimes the question is, how long would teachers be able to be here in terms of recruitment and retention? And it's potentially up to 5 years plus other opportunities for other types of visas after that. The other information as it relates to ISBE's role and then our district role is coming up. Spouses and families can come along. Christina has her family with her and 2 children in our schools. 2 children in schools here with us as well. This is the first time a family has come as a part of the program, which is exciting. And she is teaching us a lot and helping us improve the program to support families. Host school districts, our responsibility is we are in the interviewing, selecting, and that process of hiring teachers. We work to ensure that all background checks and all the processes of hiring, like any staff member, are followed with teachers also through this program, and so on and so forth. So the arrival process, we work with them to arrange transportation. So a couple of them I picked up, a couple of from either airport or bus station, a couple of them Lupe picked up, and Christina, they arranged their own transportation as well. So it's just a mixture of supporting them upon arrival and then that process of adjusting to life in Urbana and in the United States. This is just a little bit more information that is there for you. The licensure piece, in case you're curious there, the ELSVIT is the acronym for basically the teacher license for international teachers, and it's valid for up to 5 years, but non-renewable. So if we were to explore beyond 5 years, we'd have to explore a different licensure as well for teaching. And the credentials in English proficiency and the endorsements that are required for bilingual education, ESL, world language, etc. This is just the timeline of how this takes place. It's getting ready to start now for next year and takes the whole year as it relates to having folks come in the summer. And those are just questions as it relates to ISBE. So I'm going to jump back to, this is our ISBE consultant that supervises and coordinates the program. And so that's just our main go-to person. And then there's another person not listed who is the main go-to person for the teachers themselves. So it's someone through the Spanish Ministry of Education. So on their side of the support, and then Claudia is on our side in terms of districts and administrators. And lastly, I believe this is our last slide, just bringing their names back up, and just want to highlight how impressed and excited we are with all of them as teachers and as people. They're definitely enriching our community and enriching our schools. I have a child that is with Mr. Antonio in middle school in 8th grade science and is loving being able to have science with someone whose first language is Spanish. Like, we have other, of course, bilingual teachers whose first language is Spanish, but it's challenging Nico, my son, in different ways, having a teacher in 8th grade science from Spain, which has been exciting. But they are nothing but rave reviews. Today I actually subbed at Urbana High School for Christina because she was participating in a webinar related to Spanish language arts standards, and I haven't told her this yet, but as I was, a lot of them are former students of mine as principal at UMS, and they're like, "What are you doing now, Dr. Wemo? Why aren't you principal anymore? What's your new job?" And so my new job is helping with dual language at the secondary level, middle school, high school, helping recruit teachers and retain teachers, et cetera. They said, were you involved in Miss Christina? And I said, yes. And said, she's fantastic. You did a good job hiring. So they are getting rave reviews at every level, and we're excited to have them with us. So at this time, that's our formal presentation. But did anyone want to say anything? Anyone have anything to present? If not, we can just do Q&A. So any questions from the board?
Board members, any questions?
I guess I was just kind of curious if you could kind of speak to like the alignment of, I'm thinking of like our standards, right? Like teaching standards that we kind of know just being in Illinois, and how that aligns with the same standards in Spain.
Sure.
Just kind of explain that a little bit.
Sure. So there's not necessarily, yeah. Right, and if anyone wants to speak on standards, you're welcome to come up and assist me. But there are, of course, our standards are slightly different as it relates to, you can just pull up a chair. As it relates to language standards and the content area standards. There's some similarities, of course, but actually Christina was in a webinar today focused on the new Spanish language arts standards in Illinois. So maybe if you're interested speaking on the differences and similarities between standards across the countries.
Well, first, I would like to thank you, Mr. Wilmelt and Ms. Ricconi, because they have really helped us with all the process, getting in Urbana, with moving, transport. All the community has helped us a lot. So it has been a warm welcoming, and that really helped. And then regarding standards, we are moving towards standards in Spain too. We don't call them standards. It depends on the community, like the states here. We have different standards. In my case, in my subjects I teach, they are similar in a way, but we are still unpacking them. So the webinar today was really helpful because we are in the process too in Spain, and so it helped me have a picture of how to implement standards in Illinois. They are different, but we are in sort of a similar transition.
Thank you. And one of the things I would add is, as a part of the onboarding process, new teacher mentoring and the new teacher orientation, we spend time unpacking standards. And right now the district as a whole is looking at standards reference learning. So everyone is going through unpacking standards, aligning our content, looking at the assessments that go along with them. So we're kind of all doing this together at the same time. It's kind of good timing for them to arrive. But we spent time this summer really looking at Spanish language arts standards as it relates to the dual language program in particular.
I had a few questions. First of all, bienvenidos. I did Spanish years and years and years ago, and I'm so grateful that I got the chance to learn another language, and I also did an exchange program in college, so it's not the same thing, but your eyes are opened so much by going and seeing another country, and everybody there is enriched by seeing you, and it's something that you can't replicate, and I'm so glad that you're here to do this with our kids, so thank you. Welcome. I'm curious, do we ever get to send, if it's an exchange, are we sending people over to Spain and Mexico and other countries? Do we have the opportunity, or do we even have the staff to do that?
So they do, they didn't speak much on that in that particular presentation, but there is the opportunity to do kind of an exchange that doesn't happen frequently through this program. The exchange is more so the ability for the benefit of when they return, enriching their own, obviously enriching their lives and their teaching career, but strengthening their schools and programming when they return back to Spain, and while they're here, strengthening ours and our collaboration and learning with each other. Back when we first started, the interview process was in Spain. I don't know if you remember, or folks who were on the board, I traveled to Spain, to Madrid, and interviewed in my hotel room, and now it's all on Zoom. It's started to shift to Zoom, and then with the pandemic, it's definitely now all on Zoom. And I say all of that to say that when I was there, I talked a lot about that because there were teachers, we were exploring that here about teachers potentially for a summer or for an entire school year, literally just switching jobs with someone from Spain. And they're open to that. It's just not very common. It's not happening very often, but it is something that could be explored further.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about it like in a recruitment capacity. How awesome would that be if we could offer that? But I know we're all short-staffed in every area, but when we bring teachers, and are we able to do it at the primary level? Did you already mention that, or is that something that we could explore in the future?
It is something that we could explore, and before, that's where we had all of our teachers from Spain, was at the primary level. This year we were fortunate enough to have staff, and we hired teachers locally for all of our elementary positions for the first time in a while. And so it's mutually beneficial in terms of helping us with hard to fill positions that we don't have candidates for. And so we try to balance that across the need. And so at the secondary level this year is where as our first cohort is moving up into 11th grade this year and 12th grade next year, finding bilingually endorsed high school teachers with that endorsement in those content areas is really challenging as well. And so that's why we have more teachers at UHS, UMS, and then early childhood. But yes, the short answer is yes, and that's something that we'll continue to have at as an opportunity to do moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And just lastly, I'm putting everybody on the spot. You mentioned that, I get it. I was looking at just briefly there all the number of districts who did get the teachers, and a lot of them were, much further north in the suburbs and everything. And I wanted to know if they had a choice in coming to Urbana, or what was it about Urbana that stood out, because we're downstate, we're not Chicago. And if you're not from the United States and you hear the word Illinois, if, at least in my experience, if somebody said, "Where's Illinois?" and I'd say Chicago. Have you heard of Chicago? And they say yes, and I'd say, well, then I'm from Chicago, because that's where everybody knew. But, you know, obviously we all know this, that Illinois has a lot more to offer. I'm curious to know, what is it about Urbana that's great, and how can you send the message out to more people so that they don't want to just land in Chicago, but they'll come down here?
That's something that touched my experience, because when it's just like Urbana, is like, where is Urbana? Because at first we saw all the districts, and it's just like, okay, near to Chicago is Urbana, and it's in the south. It's like, oh my God, where are we going? But we go to experience, so we go to open mind. But now with our colleagues, we always talk about that, how happy we are that we are here. Well, at least what we were searching for, or we were searching something like this, because a big city is okay to have it 2 hours ago, because it's nice to go in the weekend or something. But when I go to Chicago, I'm so glad to come back here. Like, okay, because this place is like, and the people are as Christina told before, the people are amazing. You are so, you feel so cozy, so warm here, and you have a lot of things to do, because it's not as a big city, but you have a lot of things with the university and everything. So there are a lot of things to do, but not with the stress of a big city. And I don't know. And we are more Spanish people here, and I think we are getting more closer, because it's a big, a small town that it will be very big. It will, like, you know that are more people, but maybe you don't keep in touch so much. So that's good. And we are like, we are Spanish from Urbana, from Champaign, and from Rantoul. So we are very glad. So we were thinking about, like, when the people that everyone comes, like, yes, you're Urbana, just so you're lucky.
Thank you.
Would add, I think, I'll speak for Antonio if that's okay, Antonio, but when he arrived, he had linkages with folks at the university. So grad students, or maybe visiting scholars, friend of a friend, and had that connection to Urbana as well. So.
Thank you again very much. We're so glad to have you, and thank you, Joe, for the great presentation.
I would like to add something. Sorry, Alba. No. As Mr. Wimmelt said, I came with my family, and so I'm so glad I'm here and not. I love leading. When I say I'm Illinois, it's like, oh, where's Illinois? Chicago. Oh, okay, so you're in Chicago. I say, wait. I'm in the Midwest. It's like 2-3 hours away from Chicago, and it's an amazing place to raise a family. So that's the feeling I get from my first 2 to 3 months here, and I'm really happy to be here. So yeah, that was a good, like, choice, or just because we decided to move here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Please. This is great. So go ahead.
I would like to say thank you to all of you, because since the first moment that we arrived here, all people try to help us in the high school. So we know the things that we have to do. They try to help with the class. So I will only want to say thank you, because it's when you think about moving to other country, you think it's hard, and it is, but with this help it's easy. So thank you.
So my question has to do with the timeline for recruitment of these teachers. So when, again, did we know these 4 were coming here?
So the interviews took place in April. I believe it was April. Maybe we go back to the timeline slide. That might help. We started the process of going, like, signing up to be in the program around middle of the school year. December, yeah, I think we passed it. I'll take us. Did I miss it? Host school district. Did we pass it? Sorry. Nope. Whoop. Who's doing that? You're doing that. Okay. So yes, so in the winter is when so fall is when they start making the call for applicants in Spain or in the host countries. And then winter and into January is when they being ISB, start having meetings with districts. And so we started the process of setting up the interviews April, May. I remember sitting in one interview before school, because Spain is 7-9 hours ahead. But it was late in the school year, April, May, when we did the interviews.
Yeah, so April, May, you interview, and then you find out you get somebody.
Then, yeah, so you go through the process, you make the offer for, if to any candidates that you would like. They accept in June, July, May, June, and then June, July, they start the process through the interviews with ISB and the whole immigration piece.
Yeah,
through
so
the summer.
I mean, so if you start in the fall trying to fill, say, 3 spots as an example, you won't really find out till May or June if you actually filled them or not.
Correct.
So then the follow-up question is, are we looking at more spots for next school year, and how many spots are you looking at potentially trying to apply for next year?
Currently,
and what subjects or whatever.
Yep, we will be exploring it for the high school level for sure, and potentially the middle school, depending on positions right now and enrollment trends, because enrollment at the middle school and high school is continuing to go up, particularly that newest or the first group going into 12th grade. We just met last week as a secondary team and reviewed course needs for high school seniors and as a part of the dual language program, and what other additional kind of scope and sequence of courses at the high school level for dual language. So we're having those conversations now. I don't have a number of how many spots we need yet, because that's currently what we're meeting about and discussing. At the elementary level, I'm not 100% sure that has been decided yet either in terms of numbers, but that's in the process. So.
Great. Any other questions?
And it's always a mixture of wanting to have local teachers, U.S. teachers, as well as a mixture of international teachers as well. So it's kind of a waiting game to see how many teachers potentially might be retiring or leaving, and all of those sorts of things.
Okay. One last call for questions.
I saw the 1 to 3 year kind of range normal. Is it a 1 year commitment or?
It's a 1 year commitment minimum. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I don't have a question, but a comment. I wanted to give a shout out to Lily Jimenez and Lupe Ricconi, who served on the ISBE committee. That when you were asking about standards, Laura, they served on the committee that looked at comparing the standards from Spain and how they fit with the Illinois Spanish language arts. So they had to participate in a lot of meetings at ISBE, and they represented the district. They actually represented our region. I think they were representing Unit 4-2 maybe. But they put in a lot of work and effort to align the standards, and I wanted to kind of just mention their names. So.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Great
you.
presentation. Thank you all for being here. We're so happy you're here. 9.2 is a study topic for changes in gender identity reporting procedures. Dr. Norton.
Good evening. Tonight, Mr. Gutzman and I are going to go over some updates to the recording and changes of the student and gender identity information. So first of all, we just want to really state that we had a lot of collaborative efforts with the LGBTQIA+ committee. They were very helpful as we created the documentation so students could provide any updates to their affirmed name or gender identity, but also in the communication and verbiage that we shared with families. So it was a joint effort, a lot of collaboration, and through that we were really able to make some changes that were more welcoming for our students and made them feel more comfortable within their school environment. And so the updates on a particular form provided an opportunity for students to request the use of a change to their first name as an affirmed name, and also gender identity, and also added male, female, non-binary, or other on this document. We've included the link to the March 2020 guidance from ISB that these are students' rights to be able to do this, and it's our responsibility to make these changes. And within this document, this 2020 guidance, there's a lot of terms and vocabulary to educate others to have a greater understanding in this area. And forms are available in school offices, and this is at all levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. And John's going to talk more about the logistical side. So the piece that I mentioned is the paper version and students completing this, and then that gets the process rolling. And then the logistical side is how things are viewable through Skyward.
Yep, and so this required implementing a couple extra modules and systems within Skyward. Thanks so much to Kim for working with the LGBTQ committee on the form and getting that through the offices. So the things that we've implemented on the student information system side is the integration of a student gender identity module in Skyward. So this allows for state reporting, we're still required for different types of state reporting to report the student's legal name. So this allows us to still report the legal name to the state while having everything internally for student access, student family access, and teacher access to display the affirmed name. So the other thing that this does is it adds, in addition to the birth sex, this adds a gender identity field into Skyward so that once they fill in the gender identity field, that's the only thing that's displayed again in student access, teacher access, and family access. So everybody who isn't involved in the process of changing these, updating them, or state or district reporting will see that affirmed name and gender identity. So here's kind of where you can see how the changes take place. So as the staff goes in to change that, this would be a secured user who has access to make changes in Skyward. They would change the legal name first to the existing student name if they haven't changed it in the past, and then they would change the affirmed name into the student name, and that would effectively overwrite the name field for all of the other areas. I had some other things that displayed how it would look to students and families, but because of FERPA and student privacy, it basically looked like a bunch of black boxes. So I decided to spare you guys from that. But if you have any questions for either Kim or I think we'd be happy to answer those.
Board members, any questions? No, hearing none. Thank you for the report. The third item tonight is National Sex Education Standard status. Again, Dr. Norton.
Okay, so tonight want to provide
Your mic's off, Kim.
Tonight, I'd like to provide some updates on where we currently stand with the National Sex Education Standards. On August 10th of 2022, the state of Illinois updated this information regarding the National Sex Education Standards, and that bold will link you to those standards. The state at this time required that districts provide instruction in sexual health education to develop a select curriculum on these new standards. So if districts are explicitly teaching sexual health, those standards would need to be adopted. Districts that did not choose to teach the National Sex Education Standards were still permitted to use the Illinois Physical Development and Health Standards. So I wanted to provide some statistics so you could see where we are as a state at this time. So out of the 860 districts, 547 have opted out. 42 are waiting to find out more information. We are in the waiting portion. We wanted to see more curriculum that's being developed because this is very new at this time and there's just not a lot of resources available. 248 of districts have not responded, and 24 of the 860 districts have adopted at this time, and then there's none locally that have adopted. So at this time, districts, as I mentioned, may still teach sexual health aligned to the Illinois Physical Development and Health Standards, and again, that is linked to those standards if you want to take a closer look at that. Our district also teaches at all levels the Illinois instructional mandates. This was formerly referred to as the mandated units of study that we instruct each year. For example, there's several different components of health within those instructional mandates. Mental health, Aaron's Law with sexual abuse, sexual harassment are all included under health guidelines. Urbana High School teaches a reproductive unit on the Illinois Physical Development and Health Standards. And UMS has, in the past, collaborated on a unit with the Champaign-Urbana Public Health Department. And Mrs. Uscali and I have had several meetings and conversations with the Champaign-Urbana Public Health Department as we make sure that we are within the guidelines to do that within those standards for 8th grade. So we're very close. And I explained to them that we're meeting tonight on this topic. So again, all schools are completing the Illinois instructional mandates. We're continuing to meet with CU PhD. But we just wanted to share this update with you as more information is being gathered and resources are becoming available. We have had a lot of questions from media. You probably have seen a lot just in the news recently, so just wanted to make sure you're up to date.
And we also, just to clarify for the public, and I know if you read the recent updates leading up to Pride Fest last week, we shared one of the instructional mandates is to teach a unit about U.S. history where you're supposed to teach about the roles and contributions of LGBTQ+, as well as Black history, AAPI, or Asian American and Pacific Islander, Holocaust. There's some other very specific curriculum areas incorporated in that. And so when I shared that information out, I received a lot of questions from staff and families who thought that we'd adopted the National Sex Education Standards when they saw that that information about the instructional mandates. So we wanted to clarify, and we thought it would be a good time. We've not had that conversation here at the board level yet, but we thought just to clarify for the public and for parents and teachers who are clearly reading the superintendent update, so yay. But also just for our own staff who were also wondering, like, had we changed something and they weren't aware. So it was a really good time to just let the public know that we are kind of in a holder, as Kim said, we're in a holding pattern right now. We're kind of waiting to see what ISB is putting together. But no decisions have been made, and before we make a decision, we would come back and of course have that conversation here at the board level. So.
Board members, any questions, comments?
Prior to this new release, and I kind of remember conversation at our last big conference in Chicago, lots around this topic. With the IPDHS standards, was that our only option or mandate, or did we have a couple of different standards that we could adopt as a district?
Yeah, that's what we've had historically, that's what we had previously.
Right.
And so that's our only option this time if we don't adopt.
Okay.
And then with those standards, we continue to, if parents even don't feel comfortable and don't want their children exposed to the content within those standards, they still have the right to opt out when those lessons are taught.
Okay.
Teachers share the information. If it's the Champaign-Urbana Public Health Department, they even shared recently with me, that's, you know, I looked at their opt-out form. So that's still shared even within those standards.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I have one actually. Is there something specific that we're waiting on? I mean, what information is going to be required for administration to come to the board with a recommendation whether to pursue or to reject standards? Or the program, I mean.
Right. We have a decision if we would like to adopt those. We just felt that we wanted to have more resources available and to be able to have some time to explore the resources, because this is something that is PK-12 standards. And so due to making sure that they're
Sure.
developmentally appropriate and make sure that we have the right resources and the competence with our teachers to be able to instruct
Yeah.
those.
Of the 24 districts that are pursuing it, are they unit districts? Are they high school districts?
You know, I'd have to look a little bit closer. I know with Unit 5, I think they are probably the closest one to us, and they are high school. Most of the other ones are north of I-80, you know, none
Okay, but
locally.
But they're mostly high school districts. They're not really.
I'd have to look a
Okay.
little bit closer. I'm only familiar, I know, with Unit 5.
Okay. That's normal.
Mhm.
Okay. Thanks. So yeah, it looks like this is pretty nascent.
And I'll add, just to give the board also some history. Remember many years ago when we had to begin implementing Aaron's Law, which is a kind of good touch, bad touch standard or that we're supposed to be sharing with families. It was very difficult, and we did not feel comfortable as a district creating those lessons on our own, and we partnered with RACES. And they worked with our social workers. I was involved. We had people from our curriculum department, administrators. So we had a group of educators, basically, and experts. We did not feel that we were the experts to be able to create K-5 lessons on that topic, just because, you know, we wanted to make sure that we were providing lessons that were going to give the students the knowledge and the information that they need to be able to, you know, stand up or let people know if they're being touched inappropriately. But we didn't feel like that was our area of expertise. And so I think that is one of the reasons why we're waiting, because ISB has put together a panel of people who are creating these lessons.
Okay.
And so we're hopeful, you know, but again, we want to wait and see how developmentally appropriate they are, all the things that Kim has already said before we opt in. So that Aaron's Law, I think, is a really good example of how it should be a collaborative process, and we want to see what they bring forward to the rest of the state. So.
Right. Even with the Aaron's Law, parents do have the option to opt out of that also.
So then, just quickly, just make sure I got this. If they do answer back and give you clarity, are they going to provide incentives for districts to adopt? I mean, are they going to say, we'll give you monetary incentives, or we'll give you all of the curriculum, you know, to, you know, what's...
Yeah, there's not been anything like that shared. It's just, you know, if you choose to be really explicit with the teaching of those standards, yeah, you have to go ahead and adopt that at this time. And yeah, they are not providing any other resources other than the standards themselves.
Okay. Well, when I first heard about it in the news, my brain immediately went, oh, mandate, you know? And I just thought, oh, gosh, are we going to hear about a mandate? And is it going to be funded or unfunded? But it's way too early to tell any of that. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else with comments or questions? All right. Thank you. And our last study topic tonight is a conversation about the substitute teacher shortage. So, Angie.
Hello, it's been about a year since we talked about this before, if you remember, when we asked for an increase for our substitute teacher pay. So I wanted to give you something to take notes on too, so feel free to write on what's going around. But I'm here tonight just to open up a discussion about the substitute shortage teacher shortage crisis, along just with the teacher shortage in general, and how that's impacting our students. And some ideas that we have, or open to any ideas that you may have to help. So here is the discussion. The data that I have is the data that since I've been in this position, you'll be able to see the substitute teachers that have been hired over the past 4 years. We have substitute teacher interviews at least once a week. We do them via Zoom, and we also do them in person. So out of the 70 that were hired in 1920, 10 of those substitute teachers are still working. Currently, the current model for substitute teachers, it's been something that people are doing in between careers. It's something that people are coming to the university, might have spouses, they might be studying themselves, and substitute teaching is something that they're able to do while they're doing that. So that's also part of the turnover, but also part of the turnover is just that it's really hard to work in schools right now. It doesn't matter what school, it doesn't matter where you're at. Some positions are harder than others, and we're seeing a lot of burnout. Absences. So you might think, okay, so about how many absences do you guys have a day? So across the district for teachers, these are just certified staff absences. We typically have between 30 and 45 teachers out any given day. Mondays and Fridays are really popular days to be sick. Also really popular days to be sick are on extended weekends, breaks before holiday weekends, professional development days, and so on. When there are days in the week that are surrounded by a long weekend, such as Election Day coming up, those are days where people are extending their weekend for mental health break from work. Current vacancies throughout the district, and as we were sitting here, I was looking at Champaign Unit 4. I did not want to include them in the PowerPoint, but I can give you kind of some numbers. But these are the current vacancies. Obviously, we have people in the rooms with our kids, but they aren't certified teachers. And while I think a piece of paper doesn't necessarily mean that a person's can be a good teacher, when I say a piece of paper, I mean a college degree or a teacher certification test, but it is what is required by the state. And we do need to think about, no matter how many pieces of paper I have, I should not be teaching middle school math or science. And so that's something to think about when we all have kids in the district, and what we need to do to be able to support our students. Just in case you wanted to have your memory refreshed, we inundate our staff with surveys, and I did not want to ask the substitutes or teachers to take a survey as to why we don't think we have substitute teachers when this is a problem that lots of people have. So I included the information that we had from our survey from last year. I just highlighted some of the written response that you can look at on your own free time if you want, but some of the reasons that were listed, some popular reasons were COVID-19, some popular reasons were the pay's not high enough, some other reasons were you don't offer insurance, and if you work full-time you should have insurance, which affordable insurance I should say, which is all true. True things. Also talked about the behavior, culture, climate in our schools and how it's hard to be a sub. I know what it feels like to be a sub at Urbana Middle School. It's difficult. So here's some data you can, or some testimonial I should say, that you can look at if you wish. Internal costs for subbing. So this is when teachers are subbing for teachers. So if we don't have enough substitute teachers for our day, which happens a lot, especially on those Mondays and Fridays, PD days, long weekends. This is how much we have spent. As you can see, like year 2019, 2020, with teacher vacancies, with internal subbing costs, it seems like a whole other world in education post-COVID. The conversations that we were having about recruitment, retention, the types of things we were able to do with our job fairs and visiting colleges. We currently, even our recruitment and retention coordinator, Larry Simmons, he's at adult ed now by his choice for a year. It just feeling what it felt like not to be able to get our people here. It's hard. It's disheartening. We spent over $172,000 last year for teachers covering 4 classrooms. So teachers at the secondary level get paid $30 a class period to sub. So if they choose to sub on their prep, if they choose to sub and not take lunch, if they are combining a class, if there are 2 math classes and there's not a teacher for one and somebody takes all the class and they meet in the cafeteria or a larger space, that's how you can get internal sub pay. So in September, typically people are not as burnt out, they're not as tired, they're not as missing as much work, but we do anticipate, if we continue going as we are going, to spend at least as much on internal subbing as we did last year. There are alternatives. You can outsource just about anything, including subs. And so last school year we spent lots of time talking to 2 outside companies. One is ESS. It's not the cleaning company in town. It's a sub-company that's a national company. They have not very much presence in Illinois, but they have also, both Kelly Education and ESS have also reached out to board members saying, hey, we can help you with the substitute shortage crisis that you're facing. They talk about what they can do for recruiting, retaining subs. They talk about the training program. They talk about being able to offer insurance, which is expensive for us to do. They also are able to deal with, well, they're supposed to deal with the short staff issues, but they can't find people just like we can't find people. So we're not really thinking that this is the solution because it's expensive, and we'd rather have our substitutes be our employees. Last year in October, the board supported the administrative recommendation, which I sincerely appreciate. We raised our base salary for subs, for our day-to-day subs, to $130 a day. The level system is based on how much you sub. You can very quickly get to the $145 a day. Or like the higher level for the TAs. Building-based sub means you go to that specific building every day. Subs tend to like that because it's more routine. District-wide sub means we can assign you anywhere where there is a need. Typically, when we hire district-wide subs, they eventually move to building-based subs. And then when we hire building-based subs, or when people move to building-based subs, principals snag them for long-term vacancies that are unexpected. Meaning that we will have a teacher resign and decide they want to be a realtor, which this type of stuff happens all the time. So those are kind of the explanation. $220 a day for subs is for when somebody is filling in the vacancy. They're doing the planning, they're doing the grading, they're doing the parent-teacher conferences, and so on. So that's what a long-term sub is, and that can end at any time. A long-term sub is not, none of these are contractual things. They can be riffed every year, and they're not guaranteed a position. They're called at-will employees. So these are some potential recommendations. Again, welcome to have anything that you are wanting to share, but I will share just quickly so you have some ideas of how we compare to across town. So in the presentation, I stated that we had 31 teacher vacancies and 39 teaching assistant paraprofessional vacancies. Currently in Unit 4, there are 25 elementary teaching certified teacher positions open, 15 at the middle school, 17 at the high school, 8 special education positions, 7 bilingual/ESL positions, and 29 paraprofessional positions, so TA positions. So in all, they have 72 certified staff vacancies, and we have 31. Not that that makes me feel any better. I'm just saying that this is an issue that many school districts are facing. Potential recommendations would be raising the base salary to $150 a day and no longer using the levels, because our subs can quickly move up to the $145. Many of them are there anyways, and so at $150, a day. Some of it's just optics. So if you are somebody new to our community or decide that you want to sub, if you see that Rantoul Schools pays $145 a day and we pay $130, you might make the trip to Rantoul. If you see that in Unit 4, their starting rate is $140, but if you subbed at all last year, then you're automatically at $150. And so to be competitive, and because people can move up to $145 quickly anyways, we're proposing it to be at $150 a day to see if we can attract new people and to keep our internal subbing costs down, which is that $30 a class period. For TA subs, also not to use the levels anymore. Again, this is not a big increase for them at all, because some are making, like our retired teacher TAs or our long-terms are making a little bit higher in those TA sub positions, but the 105 would help raise the entry rate, and also it's a good thing kind of for advertising, for marketing purposes. We're still implementing the $100 bonus for every 5 days a substitute teacher works, and we have a $100 referral bonus to staff, current staff referring a new substitute to the Urbana School District. And again, these are things that are not totaling a lot of money, those referral bonuses. I believe that right now, I think I read, and we were the first in our area to offer the referral bonus, and then people copy our good ideas. But I think that the referral bonus right now in Unit 4 is up to $250. And so, Brenda, I don't know if you know if that's accurate or not, but that's word on the street. So these are some proposed ideas. This is what it would do money-wise. The difference between current and proposed costs. So the current cost for our subs would be the $445, $860. This would raise it to $573, $960. The difference would be $128,000. So you're probably asking me, how are we going to get that money? So I talked to Katie Rowland. She's not here tonight. She's at a conference. And she stated that in the budget for those 31 vacancies that we currently have, each position is budgeted at an average of $50,000 plus benefits. Our benefits per staff person are $9,080, which includes the health benefits, employee only, and life insurance. And so per person, for the salary that would be benefit for those 31 teaching positions, that's going to be $1.5 million, and then just for benefits alone, it would be $281, $480. So for a total package of what's budgeted would be $1,831,480. So I'm hoping that you would be okay with this proposal here. But what I also want to do is that I would like to be able to provide benefits, full coverage benefits. Right now we have the option for people to purchase health insurance. Our health insurance is expensive because health insurance is expensive. And we, if we want full-time employees and we want to wrap around our substitute teachers and adopt them as our own, I would like to be able to offer them health insurance and life insurance. And we'd also like to increase the number of building-based subs for a few places, such as we would, all the elementary schools have had one, with the exception of DPW, which currently has 2 due to enrollment. We would keep them at 2, but we would increase the building-based sub allotment to 2 at Thomas Paine, King, and Yankee Ridge. We would keep the building-based sub at 1 for Wiley and early childhood based on their enrollment numbers. Also keep Leal at 2. UMS is at 3. We would keep that at 3. We would increase UHS up to 3, and we have 4 district-wide positions, and that is not recommending for an increase. But the total cost for benefits would be that just under the $200,000 for all of those sub positions. So this would be offering insurance for building-based subs, so they are required to come to work every day in a specific building, or district-wide subs. This would not be providing benefits to long-term subs. Some people are going to pick the long-term sub option because it's $220 a day, and it's the time frame is undefined. It might be a maternity leave. It might be unexpected medical leave. It might be that somebody just decided that they were done teaching and then they quit, and we don't know how long it'll take us to have to fill it. And so it's easier for us to be able to not easier for us. It's better for the district not to offer insurance because for that person, because it could literally be 2 or 3 weeks. And so to start that process for a long-term sub, that's why we offer the 220-day instead of insurance. But we don't offer insurance we offer it, but they have to pay for it. So we would like it to be employee only. Other recommendations would be to start a substitute teacher trainer program. And so we are working on a job description now. This would be like a stipend position that we have. And this is where the companies that we could use to outsource, this is where they feel like they can do things for us. But I still think our teachers could do a better job because they know our schools and know the policies of the district and understand the technology and the software we're using. So we could post a position for a formal substitute trainer, and we would hire 3 to 5 teachers. We would try to get a mix of different levels, and they could provide after-school training for substitute teachers. Obviously, we'd pay the substitute teachers to come. We would train them on all of the district technology, behavior management, writing lesson plans, school policies, procedures, etc. Hourly pay for the subs to attend and the trainers to facilitate. And then trainers would be available for additional support if needed. So we'd really like to be able to use kind of an instructional coaching model. What I think would happen, what I'd hope would happen, is that some of our instructional coaches would apply for the stipend position and then follow up with the substitute teachers and doing coaching models, coaching cycles with our substitute teachers as if they were permanent teachers in our school. Because I think that in education, we are moving more towards that need. So the idea of creating full-time substitute teachers as a career. So the next steps would be for us to talk here. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Also, any follow-up questions from the board to either myself or Katie. Happy to answer whatever you've got. And then more discussion if necessary next week. And then hopefully bringing forward an opportunity to vote, which would be raising the daily rate to $150, include benefits for building-based subs and district-wide subs, and then the stipend position posted. And so Katie believes that this is not going to be any sort of financial strain on the district because of the money that's already budgeted for those vacant positions. So that's what we've got, but she could not be here tonight if you have any more specific questions, but we can bring that information next week. So questions?
Board members, any questions tonight?
I do. I have one. Could you please repeat again what you were talking about with the difference between offering purchasing health insurance for the subs that would be there just ad hoc subs versus not offering it for the long-term ones? I got stuck there.
Sure. Sorry. So right now, insurance is not we don't have employee paid insurance for any of our substitute teachers because they're at-will employees. However, what we would like to do is be able to offer employee-only insurance for our full-time employees. This would include our building-based substitute teachers and our district-wide substitute teachers. So these are people that come to work every day. They work for Urbana full-time, they're 40-hour employees, and they have benefit time and they have insurance benefits, not just the option to purchase insurance. And so we're just based on some of the feedback that we received, it appears that that might be something that we can use to recruit others. Other school districts are doing it, and it's the right thing to do, just to be able to have solid employees. As for not offering to all subs, like some subs that just work, they might work 1 day a week, we wouldn't offer, those are called day-to-day subs. And the long-term subs, the day-to-day subs, we're requesting to have the $150 a day. We're not requesting to move up the building base or the district-wide. We're just asking to add in the extra benefit, like the benefits, right? So for the long-term subs, the benefit of being a long-term sub is that it's short-term. It's $220 a day, so it's more money, but it's not, it might, you never know when it might end because those are posted. We are actively trying to fill those. We have people moving around districts all over the place. We're interviewing people that are currently working in other districts. So we never know when those vacancies will be filled, and people who take long-term assignments understand that. And sometimes they don't care about the insurance. They care about the more money because they have insurance elsewhere. And people that are long-term subs take the job knowing that we're always going to have work for them. We have some great long-term subs in our buildings that know that we will find something for them because we need them. We just never know what we're going to need.
Okay, thanks. My brain stuck on that, and I was not understanding the differentiation between.
No, that was my fault.
No,
Sorry.
no. But I appreciate that, and I mean, for people who think that raising the rates is actually expensive, it's not, because I've had this explained to me in the past that if a teacher is out unexpectedly, very often administration will come in to take over, you know, maybe the assistant principal or somebody else on staff who I don't, this is an awful, you know, robbing Peter to pay Paul, but not in monetary terms, but in task terms, you're taking the assistant principal away and putting him in the classroom, and then they're not doing their duty. So really, it is costing us more regardless.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I'm worried about our building administrators.
Right.
They cannot continue covering classrooms because then what they're doing is doing their work at night. And they're not able to be as easily accessible for parents that come in, for emergencies that arise. It's fun to sub. It's fun to see the kids. It's fun to be a part of what's going on occasionally, not daily.
Right, and it's not because they don't want to do their own jobs, and it's not because we don't value them. It's that they're best suited to be in where they are instead
Correct.
of being in a classroom. So that is costly to us in different ways besides just the monetary cost. It's
Right.
costing us in administration. But and also, I was really interested, and you just kind of opened my mind up, that this notion of substitute teaching as a profession, and I wanted to know if you got feedback from people. Like, I always just assumed that, you know, oh, if you let somebody sub long enough, maybe you recruit them as a full-time teacher in a classroom that's permanently there. But maybe there are people out there who just don't want that
Yes.
tied down.
So to be a substitute teacher, you have to have a bachelor's degree. And so sometimes, I mean, we'll have people with bachelor's degrees that are teaching something completely unrelated to their bachelor's degree. They might not have them. I mean, sometimes we're able to tap into those people for Grow Your Own and help them with teacher certification. Some don't want to go back to school, but they really enjoy working in school. So we try to find people and match them up in a position. But ideally, we want people certified in the content area that they are subbing or that they are working, just to have that background knowledge. But to have our substitutes feel, I mean, it's like kind of watching like the 80s or 90s movies where you see a substitute teacher come into class and they're not treated like a teacher. And we need to rewrite that narrative. And I think creating kind of full-time employee career positions for substitute teachers can help rewrite that narrative.
Thank you. I just know that we've sat in on a lot of meetings, especially last year, roundtable discussions amongst the entire district, and you were there, and everybody else was thinking as hard as they could to solve this problem. I really appreciate you putting your thinking cap on and trying to figure out ways to do it. I'm really interested to know, you know, what comes of this and if we're able to solve it.
Yeah, we want them included in professional development, all of the things.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate all your efforts.
Sure.
Angie, their benefits would be the same as everybody else,
Yep.
right? Our regular?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Brian.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, I've heard substitute teachers who are really looking at our neighboring districts, and if it's $5, $10, to me, that's one of those things that's in our control. So whatever we can do financially seems like a no-brainer to me. And so, frankly, I would like to know that we are the highest of all of the neighboring districts. So if there's, you know, if Champagne's playing against us and they're upping the incentive here, then we should know about it and react. Because if there's even, you know, 3, 4, 5 subs that we could attract, and it's a difference of $5 a day,
right,
I would like to have the space to talk about it and react as quickly as we can, because, you know, this affects our, you know, the mental health of our teachers. So the you know, the investment is something, but it pays off quite a bit. So, you know, before we vote next time, if there's any other adjustments that we can consider upping to be the most competitive, personally, I'd like to know what those are.
Sure. I have not heard of anybody being over 150 for like the base rate. I can tell you that last time when we raised it in October, Unit 4 raised it a couple weeks afterwards, and that likely will happen. Just because they can.
And as long as if we're setting the bar, great, then we're setting the bar, but like, I think we shouldn't get passed by
Yes.
Rantoul or Champaign or any of these other areas, personally.
Angie, do you have the breakdown? I think Muhammad's 150. Is anybody-
Muhammad's
Yeah.
the highest are 150. Rantoul's 145.
I was thinking Monticello's 150, but I could be wrong on that. I
Yeah,
thought they
Muhammad's
had
150 for sure. Monticello wasn't at 150, but maybe they raised it to
Okay.
150. I haven't heard of anybody being over 150. I'm all about going more than that. I just know that whatever they're, and you know what? And if it brings more substitute teachers to all the districts, so be it. We need them for this. We need them in our schools.
So when Muhammad raised theirs to 150, all the rural, like Tolono,
Mhm,
Monticello,
smaller towns
they
did
all
the
raised
same.
theirs to 150 because they're kind of fishing out of the same pond, right? Like people
Right.
that sub in Muhammad are not coming to sub here. I'm just going to say that.
Right. I was going to say the
So,
reputation.
that's just
That's a
reality.
huge part of it, and I'm not saying that to be mean, but these subs work together. They talk about which schools they want to sub at, which schools they don't want to sub at. My question, I guess, did you have anything else? First of all, I don't mean to cut in. Okay. I'm just curious. I know about our subs who are retired. What can we do basically,
Do you mean retired teachers?
Yeah, retired teachers who are subbing for us, because I think it's great they stayed up their hours. I believe it's 120.
Yeah,
Is that
they are
correct?
paid more. Retired
Okay.
teachers are paid more. Retired teachers are paid more than the 150, but then retired Urbana teachers are even paid more than that. So if we have
Okay.
retired Urbana teachers, they're at the top range. And I call people and ask, and Dr. Ivory Tatum calls people. I mean, we are calling people and calling in personal favors to come and sub. And
Okay.
sometimes we get luck and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
It just depends. And so I don't think it's the issue of money. I think it's the issue of it's hard to work in schools, not just our schools, any schools right now. It's hard.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments? I want to commend the addition of the $100 extra for 5 days in a row, because that's going to help you on the Mondays and the Fridays.
Yes.
So that was pretty clever.
And well, we had it last year too, but we're still. I'm on the listserv for the middle school and high school, and to see the vacancies that we have out, we need more subs. People are tired, they're burnt out, and we just need people.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything else we can do to help with, I guess, the Mondays and the Fridays besides that?
I think that other times we can talk about incentives for staff, incentives for not using personal days. I mean, lots of districts are using creative ideas, it's kind of like, where students get awards for perfect attendance. I know that that's not getting more subs, but maybe offering incentives to staff that are coming in every day.
I mean, at a certain point, those huge drops are a safety issue in some of our buildings as well.
Correct.
So, I mean, it's imperative on us to invest in this, frankly.
The more subs that we have in a building on a daily, just on any given day, impacts the culture and climate of how that school is running. Because kids know it. In any school district.
Right. So a proposal will be brought forward just on the administration's recommendation, or should we? I mean, so a week from now, we're going to be voting on this specific recommendation. Is the board content with this? Does the board want to make it a bigger number, or suggest another change?
I don't have a suggestion of a change, but I do think it is also worth considering. And one of your points here for survey data, there was a suggestion about, relaxing the degree requirement. So I feel like you're in this kind of like push-pull. You're talking about, we definitely need people in the buildings, but we also need qualified people. So is there some sort of in your training program or some sort of, I don't think there's anything statewide because I haven't heard of anything, but like thinking about these like levels of certification, because I think this is a problem across the board with like clinical professionals. There's a lot of gatekeeping and who can actually get the degree requirements or,
Sure.
you know, meet those like licensure hours.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering what kind of power the district has in some of this like certification level to push, maybe it's ISB at
It's
some
ISB.
point, right? To think about like, okay, you've done so many hours in an education, but you didn't maybe get the minor or the degree, but you could still be very helpful
Correct.
for a district. So, I mean, that's longer range. I know we're talking about next week, but I do think that's something that collectively, if we're talking about shifting the narrative,
Yep.
what that actually looks like and providing information in those settings that is kind of looking at like what kind of certifications or things that, you know.
Right.
we-
What's really helpful, like, that's a really good point. And so Tori was in the same session I was at Joint Annual Conference last November, where members of ISB were there. We were talking about the substitute teacher shortage. We were talking about teacher shortage. And that was the place where everybody was talking about the requirements for substitute teachers. And I mean, it's a gatekeeper for us. We can't put in somebody in a regular position to sub more than 5 days. There's short-term emergency for 5 days for a position, but if you can sub for a teacher for 5 days, and we need more than that. And so in order to be a true sub, they need a bachelor's degree. And until that gets changed, we're tied by what ISB says. So it takes people like us to advocate at the state level to say, hey, I don't know what you're thinking, but we need your help. And we need people in our schools. So.
I mean, I agree, right? Like we have this really fantastic adult ed program. How does that feed in or fit into that narrative, right? So I don't know. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll head to Springfield later, and talk to them, but.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I guess from the chair's point of view, is the board content with 150? Are we content to basically be where Muhammad is? Do we want-
Yes.
And Champaign.
And Champaign, right? Do we want to consider anything higher?
I mean, if we can prove that it would help us, that it would actually help us, I'd entertain talking about it. I mean, I'm not crunching numbers, so I can't say, yes, please raise it, you know.
I can bring the numbers, and Katie can, we can talk and bring things forward, and then you can vote on what the rate is gonna be, I guess. I don't know how that works.
I mean, but from my point of view, I'd like to see what the numbers would be for 155 and 160.
Sure.
Okay. And just, what's hard is, or what's deceiving is that the current base rate is 130 a day, but that's just what's that's what's advertised. And so if you come in the very first day, you're gonna make 130. But if you continue to sub for us, you can quickly move up to 145. So I don't think that the increase over the data of who's actually worked is gonna be that huge, but it's more of a marketing for people.
You mean like looking at the sticker price at the
Yes.
get-go? Yeah, getting in the door looks
Yes.
better. Yes, like.
Because
No,
if people are seeing 130 right now, then they're choosing other places.
No, I hear you.
I just had one last addition too. I'm not a big fan of the outsourcing on this, and I really would support any initiatives that you have for growing our own, because I agree with you. It's better to teach from within with our own standards, with our own culture and climate, but also I don't think that outsourcing solves any problems. It looks good on paper, but I think it creates a whole bunch more headaches and gives money away to people who I'd rather keep the money here and
Correct.
when we know what we're doing. So I'm putting that out there. I hope there's not a huge discussion on that end, but
Right. We just wanted to present all the options, so.
thanks.
What about, this may be a terrible idea, but you have referral bonuses for staff who refer, but can we also do like signing bonuses for new people, like some incentive to get the first time in the building that's substantial in some way?
We've talked about that too. Dr. Avery Tatum was at a conference. I mean, people are doing sign-on. I had a teacher at one of our elementary schools ask me yesterday, who's brand new with us, and said, I've been hearing about districts doing sign-on bonuses. I really need money right now because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I know, we're talking about these types of things. That's an option.
I was at Luda last week, and a lot of the suburban districts are doing $1,000 signing bonus for new hires, not subs, for new teachers, new teacher hires.
I mean, if you look at the cost benefit, it's a small amount of money to bring people in. I think we got to get creative with these things.
Yep.
And then if there's, you're already incentivizing consecutive days, so get them in the door, incentivize them when they're in the door. And if we can grow just a little bit with a small investment, I mean, I'm for it.
There's even child care centers offering sign-on bonuses right now for their staff.
Yeah.
All right, does anybody else have any comments or questions?
So just to be clear, Angie's gonna bring back 155 and 160 costs as well? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about, we've had 47 employees or subs hired so far this year. You think about what the sign-on bonus would be for them, so we can, think about what that amount would be. Obviously, to advertise it, it sounds great, but we have to make sure they're actually working before they get the bonus. So it's kind of like a cash advance, and I don't know how that, so we have to work out some details, but we could bring some proposals for that too.
That would be great. I mean, I think we'd like to discuss that next week as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just, I know that often when teachers start, they don't get paid for a really long time.
Correct.
How does that work for subs? Do they get, and is it the same amount of time? Like, are they waiting a really long time as well?
No. So we pay on the 15th and 30th.
Okay, so they
and
immediately cycle in?
Yes.
Okay.
If they work the day prior to the pay period ending. So it just depends on when they work, but it's not as long as new teachers that coming to the district.
Any more questions? All right, thank you very much, Angie.
No, I really appreciate the board's support on this. Thanks.
All right. We have one action item on our agenda tonight, and that's the Hope Springs Agreement.
And I am not Linda Gibbons, so I'm standing in for Linda. So basically, the only change to this agreement, which is why we didn't ask the Hope Springs people to come and present, and I told Linda she didn't have to come late, that I could just kind of update the board. So we had a similar, basically the same MOU last year, and what we've been doing, Hope Springs is a clinical mental health service provider for the district. If you think about our multi-tier system of support, they are at the very tip top of that triangle, working with students with really higher need clinical mental health needs beyond what our students are able to get from 30 minutes of social worker week or 30 to 60 minutes of clinical professional. I don't know if Todd wants to add anything to that, but so basically this MOU is our agreement that we are contracting out the services with Hope Springs. The only change is, instead of signing a new agreement every year and asking them to come and present every year, they asked that we could leave this as a standing agreement, that we would only change it if there were significant changes within the language or the services provided or the responsibilities of the district or Hope Springs. So that is basically the only change. Is if you look at the last page, if you have the agreement up, we basically just removed the ending date. So previously we were on a year-to-year agreement with them. So this is basically changing it to kind of a standing open MOU, and then if we decide that we want to change something or we're not happy with something, we can go to Hope Springs and say, hey, we would like to discuss the MOU and we recommend these changes, and they could do the same thing, and at that point we would enter into a new MOU and sign a new version of it. So that is basically the only change that we're asking for tonight. We didn't put it on a first read, second read, since there was basically no changes in the agreement itself other than that.
Jennifer, I just wanted to add, apologies, when I was looking through this, we have a couple of typos we want to fix. We want to fix the address for the school district to our current address, and then the second to last page has a couple of acronyms that need updating, like FERPA and HIPAA, but it's a couple of letter changes, very minor.
Okay, we'll do that.
Clerical kind of pieces. And just to clarify too, when you said contracting out, there's no cost to the district for this.
Yes,
Hope Springs works with insurance and connects, the families up that way. So this is at no cost to the district.
Thank you for clarifying that.
All right, is there any motion? Sure.
So if somebody has no insurance, how do they get counseling?
So I know Hope Springs does work with Kid Care, Medicare, those kind of things. So they do, Hope Springs does work with families to get kids hooked up with that. They do that sort of intake piece of it as well.
And just refresh our memories, we've been doing this for how many years with them? It's been a while, right?
It's third year. We just got this up and running fall of 2020. Or 19. We all know what happened in March of 2020. So last year was kind of a reboot, getting things up and going again.
And it's, I mean, from Linda coming and reporting to
Mhm.
us year after year, it sounds to me like we're pretty happy with their services.
Yes.
And they've been
Yeah,
helping
they've
our
been
kids,
great.
so.
Absolutely.
Our social workers are well acquainted with the referral process. The connections are there. So.
Great.
I'm fine with it. I'll make
Right.
the motion to accept the agreement as amended.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? Any questions that would be appropriate at this point? Hearing none, roll call votes in order.
Member Hasanatka?
Yes.
Member Hall?
Yes.
Member Orr?
Yes.
Member Ogalski?
Yes.
Member Carter votes yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulaski?
Yes, there is no call for a future special or executive meeting. Superintendent's report.
Okay, John, is that ours up there? Okay. So, yesterday, and I'm gonna kind of defer to a couple people here. I know it's the superintendent report, but we've got other slides here. Kim spent the day at the high school yesterday, celebrating World Mental Health Awareness Day. So there's a video here that the fabulous Parker Sands made with some of our UMS students to kind of recognize Mental Health Awareness Day. John, if you go to the next slide before you click on the video. I was just going to show a couple pictures and then let Kim kind of talk about the photos here before we watch the video.
Yeah, we really had a meaningful day. You know, it's going to extend beyond the day itself. It was really exciting. We had a lot of partnerships. We want to thank the Regional Office of Education through an SEL Hub grant. All of the supplies that we purchased for this event, we will be reimbursed for. So we discovered that a lot of our students and our staff weren't sure of maybe where to go to for support, or if students were getting the support that they needed. And so you'll see on the backpack in the bottom right-hand corner picture, it has a business-sized card that has locations for the social workers, clinical professionals, and school counselors, and then it is on a luggage tag, so students can add that to their backpack. They also received a little goodie bag when they arrived to school that had mental health awareness bracelets, a green lifesaver, the cards, the sticker that they could wear throughout the day. And as students were greeted, we reminded them what the day was about and that they mattered. And their responses and just what we could see on their faces when we said those words was unbelievable. We had a special schedule for the day for a SEL time at the very beginning, and our clinical professionals did a fabulous job. You'll see them in the right-hand corner, Luisana Hernandez, Alicia Trezise, and Keela Pickett. And it's nice that our students can see versions of themselves. We also have Edward, and I'm trying to think of Ed's last name.
Belia.
Yeah, he wasn't there that day, but we also have a male clinical professional as well, and they did an outstanding job on their presentation that, again, detailed where students could go to for support and also mental health warning signs. And then we had selfie stations at lunch, and so students took pictures, and even the discussions as they were choosing their props were unbelievable that they were having with one another. And Hope Springs was also present for all the lunch hours to provide support as well. So it was a really good day. And I also have to thank the PTSA because they have activities for staff. So we didn't want to forget our staff either on this day. So yeah, it was a good day. More to come.
So if you go back, John, we'll just show a little snippet of the video, and then we'll link this in the BOE update so everybody can watch the full video.
And Parker Sands had his middle school students do this, so.
I think it's just another second, John, if you want. And then there's some credits. So one additional thing that we're doing too is, if you remember when we talked about some of the school code changes that districts, this is an outtake, that districts are required to provide information of like suicide hotline information. So John came up with a waterproof sticker that we are going to put on the back of all middle school and high school students' IDs. They just will stick it on the back of their ID, and they will always have the suicide prevention hotline number accessible to them. So that's one of the ways we're going to address that moving forward too. So I also I want to give a shout out to the go past. Yep. So this is our School Safety Week for us. I don't know if anyone went out to the Lincoln Square Mall yesterday for the kickoff to Fire Prevention Week, but we're in the middle of Fire Prevention Week, and we also usually partner this week by holding our intruder drills, which I supervised today and yesterday. That's why I wasn't able to be at the Mental Health Awareness Day, but we visited every school. We beat the rain this morning, and I want to give a shout out to Urbana Police for the partnership. They had 3 officers who tagged along with us for the last 2 days to go into every single school. Randy was my partner in crime from the district to go into those spaces. I also want to just say to our administrators and our staff how proud I am of their commitment. The last 2 days we've been talking about this at the district crisis team. For the last couple of years with COVID, we weren't really able to have, I think, meaningful intruder drills. The school code did change too a couple years ago where they took out, schools were not allowed to actually say they were intruder drills. They were supposed to just be school safety drills. But with everything happening in our nation, with Uvalde and other serious incidents that have happened at schools, that language was returned and actually increased even more. So we, as a leader, as a person who has felt really strongly about this for many, many years, I was very happy to be able to go back, and our staff responded, administrators responded, students were very cooperative. They took it very seriously. So just a great shout out to everybody for that. We are going to be hosting a HBCU fair next Thursday. We have a student at our high school who took this on as a extracurricular activity. She was really disappointed. She's a senior, but she was disappointed because she wasn't able to take those college trips that they've taken in the past to go visit. Because of COVID, go to those HBCUs for those college trips in the recent years because we weren't doing that kind of traveling at the high school. So she took it upon herself to bring those colleges here. So next Thursday, in collaboration with the UHS counselors, there are going to be many HBC, and that is historically black colleges and universities. In the gym at our high school. We've shared this out across the community. You can go to the website here to sign up. Other schools are bringing their students over for this. So yeah, we're really excited to be able to offer this. There's some raffle prizes. So if you're interested and you have a junior, a rising senior next year, and you're interested in learning more about HBCUs, then come on out to Urbana High School next Thursday. And I am going to show the pictures for these, but I'm going to kind of let the next slide let our board members jump in. So we want to recognize our sectional champ, Marley from UMS, who won and will be going to state. She's an 8th grader at UMS, so congratulations to Marley. And I have to say thanks to Brian's wife for the picture. I didn't have any good pictures of her over the weekend, and so I got this one yesterday and changed the slide. And we also want to give a shout out to the boys cross country team. If you go to the next one, John, who placed 3rd, and they are also going to be going to state. So I'm going to kind of let these guys jump in because they're both parents of the cross country team.
Hey, so this is the first time that UMS has gone to state since I think somewhere around 2009 or 2010. So it's a huge accomplishment. Muhammad dominates this area, and Parkside over in Bloomington also does. So snagging this 3rd spot is definitely like winning around here for this program. And you can see Arlen and Jevin, they were auto qualifiers themselves anyway. But with the 3rd place, that means our number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 boys are all going to state also, which is awesome. And Marley Yao laid down the fastest time all season, and just she hadn't won a race all season. She decided to do it then, and she blew out the current number 1 by, I don't know, 14 seconds or something, which is huge. So major shout out. Is one of the most exciting things we've seen in a long time.
And I think Dr. Weemel's son is Dylan in that picture. In the front there, holding the plaque. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, the others are Titus Cody is there, Dylan Weemelt, Austin, my son, Sebastian Brettel, and Sam Susavan are the rest of the 7.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
I'm just gonna say it is a hard course. So it is not. It's a hard course to get a personal record. It's a hard course. Hills. I mean, I know we're in the flatlands, but there are some hills. So I think it can be an intimidating space, and we don't run it as a team. We don't run it until sectionals. So it's cool that these young people came out and showed up and worked really hard.
Yeah, great. Well, you'll have to keep us posted on the, when. It's this Saturday. Okay, where at? Parkside. Okay. Okay. Well, I will be expecting pictures and updates.
9:30 a.m. First time that we get to run the first races.
Awesome.
Clean course.
Yay. Well, that is great. So thank you for sharing, and congratulations, UMS. So next is tomorrow night, UHS Swim and Dive will be hosting their senior night. So they have 3 seniors, Elena, Hadley, and Tess. I want to congratulate them on a 6th place finish this weekend and 22 PRs in the Tiger Invitational. So that is a group shot there. If you're interested in joining senior night, the meet starts at 4:30, and the senior night recognition will be in between the diving and the swimming, I'm told. And Paul, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, I mean, I'll be there, but,
Okay.
with flowers in hand, but, and then, academic monogram nights right afterwards.
Yes, so we'll be running straight over to academic monogram, right. And we had several other senior nights. If you want to just cycle through these really quickly, John, so our football team, they were recognized on Friday night, and there's a few pictures there. That's cross country and cheer. And soccer senior night was last Thursday. These are all of our fall sports, and then band. So congratulations to all of the seniors. Looking forward to the winter sports starting, but our fall sports have been fantastic. So we missed Friday night football, but we still had a lot of things to celebrate. And then finally, upcoming dates. Paul mentioned the UHS academic monogram is tomorrow night. I don't know what board members responded that they're going. Lori has that information, so okay. So we will make sure you guys have reserved seats there. The end of the first quarter is upon us very quickly. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have student-led conferences, and then the first week of November, Staff Development Day. That is it for me.
You didn't mention the homecoming dance. Did it go well?
Oh, it did go well, yes.
Sorry
We had
to
a
butt
lot
in.
of fun. No, it went really well. Yes, very high participation. And they did not have to take COVID tests. They were very happy.
Cute. Board reports. Anybody have a board report tonight?
I attended the IASB virtual Zoom night for, Tori was in the session I was in. It was about growing your own teachers, which is what Ms. Franklin spoke to us about tonight. I believe Ann was there, and she attended the finance. Is that correct?
Yep.
I thought it was a pretty good Zoom call. It was interesting how the teacher shortage is affecting everyone. There was a gentleman in our group from Effingham, and he said he was working to try to get something different going, I believe. Is that right, Tori, with Eastern? And he was going to get back and let us know, you know, how that went or anything. How was the finance, Ann?
It was good. It's just always good for me to refresh myself on the buckets and the various funding that our districts are tied to and required to follow, but, you know, how that money gets used and taxing and everything. So it was just really good refresher.
Right. Any other board reports?
I just wanted to let people know, last week, it's too bad Katie's not here because she did a great job chairing the Health and Wellness Committee meeting that we had. I know that it had been dormant for a while, but we did a lot of brainstorming that night to reconvene and to talk about what it is that our goals and mission of the group is going to be. We had people from food service were there. We had people from the farm to school program were there. Farm to table. Sorry, I get that mixed up with. Yeah. Sola Gratia. There you go. But there was a good mix of people who were parents and staff and, you know, community members. And so we talked about what we want to do in the next year. And then it seems to me like we just have to find a place to start. And we may not be able to implement any goals this year, but at least we'll be planning for stuff. So if people have thoughts, they can let me know. Katie, you know, they can let Katie know of things that you're thinking about. Mental health was one that came up because we think of health and wellness as physical fitness and diet, but it's also mental health, which was very timely. We talked about it. So anybody have ideas, please bring it to us, and we'd be glad to entertain it for the coming year.
One last call for board reports. Hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be welcomed.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.